remain. These saviours of our city, what will prepare them for their task? What course of study and way of life? And when should each age group tackle each subject? Yes, we'd better deal with that. You'll realise there probably won't be very many of them. The elements of the nature we have described and which we say they must possess are seldom likely to be combined in the same individual. In most people, this kind of nature is fragmented. How do you mean? Well, you're aware that those who have a love of learning, a good memory, intelligence, quickness of wit, and everything which follows from those qualities, and who at the same time are developing energy and greatness of spirit, are unlikely to become the kind of people who are naturally inclined to lead an orderly, sober, and steadfast life. Quickness of wit carries people all over the place, and steadfastness goes out of the window. True, he said. Steadfast characters, by contrast, slow to change, the sort of people you can much more depend on, who in time of war are immovable in the face of danger, are likewise steadfast and slow to change even when it comes to learning. They are immovable and unteachable as if they'd been drugged. They are full of sleep and yawns whenever they have to work hard at something of this sort. Yes, that's true. But we said our guardians must be liberally endowed with both sets of qualities. Otherwise they are not to be given the fullest education, respect, or power. Quite right, too. In which case, don't you think the philosophical character will be a rare one? Of course it will. It must be tested in the hardships, fears, and pleasures we were talking about a little earlier. What's more, we can now add something we omitted then, which is that we must exercise it in many branches of study to see if it will be capable of enduring the most demanding ones, or if it's an intellectual coward, the way some people are physical cowards. Yes, he said, it's a good idea to find that out. But what are these most demanding studies of yours? You may remember us distinguishing 3 qualities of the soul with a view to drawing conclusions about justice: self-discipline, courage, and wisdom, and what each of these things was. If I didn't remember that, I would deserve to miss the rest of this discussion. Can you remember what came just before that? No. What? What we said, I believe, was that we could either get the best possible view of them, but only after a long detour, at the end of which they would be clearly revealed, or we could give an explanation on a level with the discussion so far. You said that was good enough, and as a result, what was said then fell short of complete accuracy, in my opinion, though whether it was good enough for your purposes is for you to say. As far as I'm concerned, he said, you gave us good measure, and the same goes for the others, I think. In matters like these, my friend, a measure which in any way at all falls short of what really is no measure at all. What is incomplete can never be the measure of anything, though for some people there are times when they are satisfied with that and feel they don't have to look any further. Yes, there are plenty of people who feel like that. It's laziness. Well, I said, it's not a feeling we want a guardian of our city and laws to have. Fair enough. In which case, my friend, our guardian must go round by the longer road. He must work as hard at studying as he does at physical training. Otherwise, as we've just been saying, he will never see the most important and appropriate subject of study through to the end. I thought we'd dealt with the most important subject. Is there some subject even more important than justice and the things we've been describing? Yes, I said, there is something more important. Also, with these virtues themselves, we shouldn't be looking at a mere outline of them the way we are now. What we want is their realization in every detail. We must not neglect that. Isn't it absurd to make every effort and do everything we can to reach the greatest possible precision and clarity over things of little significance, and then decide that the most important things deserve less than total precision? Utterly absurd. But this thing you call most important, and its subject matter, whatever you say that is, do you imagine anyone will let you go without asking you what it is? Of course I don't. Why don't you ask me? You've heard the answer often enough before, and now you've either forgotten it, or else this is another plan to make my life difficult by not letting me get away with anything. It must be the second reason, I think. You've often heard me say that the most important branch of study is the form or character of the good. That which just things and anything else must make use of if they are to be useful and beneficial. You must know that's what I'm going to say now, and you must also know that it's not something we can have adequate knowledge of. But if we don't know it, then however much we know about everything else, without that, as you are well aware, it'll be no more good to us than to possess something without the good. Do you think it's any use to us to own all there is, and yet not own anything good? Or to be wise in everything but the good, but have no wisdom about what is beautiful and good? Good heavens, no, I certainly don't. Another thing you're well aware of is that while most people think the good is pleasure, those with more sophistication think it is knowledge. Of course. And further, my friend, that those who hold this view are unable to show what knowledge it is. They are compelled, in the end, to say that it is knowledge of the good. A pretty absurd definition, he said. How can it fail to be absurd? They criticize us for not knowing what the good is, and then immediately assume we do know what it is. They say the good is knowledge of the good, as if we're bound to understand what they're talking about as soon as they so much as utter the word good. Absolutely true. What about those who define the good as pleasure? Are they any less wide of the mark than the others? Aren't they in their turn compelled to admit that there are bad pleasures? Very much so. Hence, I imagine they find themselves admitting that the same things are good and bad, don't they? Of course. Is it clear, then, that it is a subject on which there are many serious disagreements? Yes, it is. And isn't something else clear? With justice or beauty, lots of people might settle for the appearance of them. Even if things aren't really just or beautiful, they might choose to do, possess, or think them anyway. When it comes to things which are good, on the other hand, no one has ever yet been satisfied with the appearance. They want things that really are good. They all treat the appearance of it with contempt. Yes, that's very clear too, he said. This is what every soul follows. All its actions are directed at this. It has a sort of divine intuition that the good is something, but it is in doubt, unable to get a firm grasp on what it is, or find any firm belief of the kind it has about other things. As a result, it loses whatever benefit it might have got from those other things. Are we to accept that even those best people in the city, to whom we are planning to entrust everything, must remain in the dark about something of this nature and importance? Certainly not. But if it's not known, I said, in what way just and beautiful things are good, and if in particular a guardian does not know this, what kind of guardian will justice and beauty have got for themselves then? One who is not much of an asset to them, in my opinion, and I have an intuition that no one will have a satisfactory knowledge of justice and beauty without knowing this first. A sound enough intuition. Well then, will we get the best arrangements for our society if the guardian supervising it is the kind of person who does know these things? We're bound to. In that case, let me remind you about things which were said earlier in the discussion, and which have been said on many occasions in the past. What things might they be? We say there are many beautiful things and many good things, and the same with everything else. That is how we classify them in speaking of them. Yes, we do say that. We also say there is a beautiful itself and a good itself, and the same with all the things we then said were many. Applying the procedure in reverse, we relate them to a single form or character of each, since we believe it is single, and call it what each is. That is so. The many things, we say, can be seen but not thought, whereas the forms or characters of things can be thought but not seen. Exactly. Very well. Which of our faculties do we use to see the things we see? Our sight, he said, and our hearing for the things we hear, and our other senses for everything we perceive? Of course. Have you ever noticed, I asked, how much more extravagantly the creator of the senses has made the power of seeing and being seen than the other senses? No, I haven't. Look at it this way. For hearing to hear, and sound to be heard, do they need some other class of thing as well? Without this third thing, will hearing fail to hear and sound fail to be heard? No, they don't need any other class of thing, he said. I suspect that many other faculties, I won't say all of them, have no need for any further thing of this sort. Can you think of any? No, I can't. How about the faculty of sight, and the thing which is seen? Has it ever struck you that those do need something of this sort? How do you mean? If there is sight in the eyes, and its possessor is trying to make use of it, you surely realize that even in the presence of colour, sight will see nothing, and the colours will remain unseen unless one further thing joins them, a third sort of thing which exists for precisely this purpose. What thing do you mean? The thing you call light. True, he said. In that case, because it involves a third thing of this important character, the link between the faculty of sight and the ability to be seen is something more valuable than the links between the other faculties and their objects. Unless, of course, light has no value. Well, it certainly does have a value. Which of the heavenly gods, then, do you take to be the agent responsible for this? Whose is the light which best enables our faculty of sight to see, and the things which are seen to be seen? The one you or anyone else would take to be responsible, he said. The one you're asking about is obviously the sun. Now, do you agree with me about the natural relationship of sight to this god? What are you saying about it? Sight is not the sun, neither sight itself, nor the place in which it occurs and which we call the eye. No, it isn't. But of all the organs of perception, I would say the eye is the most sun-like, much the most. So the power which it has, the ability to see, it receives from the sun as a kind of grant from an overflowing treasury. Exactly. So too, the sun is not sight, but it is the cause of sight, and it can be seen by sight. That is so, he said. This is what you must take me to mean by the child of the good, which the good produces as its own analogue. In the world of thought, the good stands in just the same relation to thinking and the things which can be thought as the sun in the world of sight stands to seeing and the things which can be seen. What do you mean? He said. Please explain that a bit further. You know that when the eyes stop being directed at objects whose colours are in daylight, and turn to those whose colours are lit by the lights of the night, they are dimmed and become virtually blind, as if there were no clear sight in them. They certainly do. Whereas, when they are directed at things whose colours have the light of the sun shining on them, they see distinctly. The same eyes now manifestly do have sight in them. Of course. You can look at the soul in the same way. When it focuses where truth and that which is shine forth, then it understands and knows what it sees, and does appear to possess intelligence. But when it focuses on what is mingled with darkness, on what comes into being and is destroyed, then it resorts to opinion, and is dimmed, as if its opinions swing first one way and then another. Now, by contrast, it resembles something with no understanding. None at all. You can say that this thing which gives the things which are known their truth, and from which the knower draws his ability to know, is the form or character of the good. Because it is the cause of knowledge and truth, think of it by all means as something known, but you will be right to regard it as different from, and still more beautiful than, knowledge and truth. beautiful though both of these are. Just as in our example it is correct to think of light and vision as sun-like, but incorrect to think that they are the sun, in the same way here it is correct to think of knowledge and truth as good-like, but incorrect to think that either of them is the good. The good is something to be prized even more highly. "It's an incredible beauty you're talking about," he said, "if it is the cause of knowledge and truth, but itself surpasses them in beauty. And you of all people, presumably, are not going to say that it is pleasure." "Be silent," I said. "Don't even mention the word no. Take a closer look at our comparison." "How do you want me to look at it?" "The sun gives to what is seen," I think you would say, "not only its ability to be seen, but also birth, growth, and sustenance, though it is not itself birth or generation. Of course it isn't. For the things which are known say not only that their being known comes from the good, but also that they get their existence and their being from it as well, though the good is not being, but something far surpassing being in rank and power." "Ye gods!" Glaucon exclaimed, making us all laugh. "What a miraculous transcendence!" "Don't blame me," I said. "You were the one who compelled me to tell you what I thought about the subject." "I was. And whatever you do, don't stop now. If nothing else, at least go through your comparison with the sun to make sure you haven't left anything out." "I've left all sorts of things out," I said. "Well, don't remain. These saviours of our city, what will prepare them for their task? What course of study and way of life? And when should each age group tackle each subject?" "Yes."